Thank you for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts football podcast to discuss the latest news, rumors, and games of the NFL and college football. And we are back for episode 155 of the show. It is January 16th, 2017, a day after the divisional round has just been finished. And man, oh man, what a game we had yesterday in Dallas. What a game. Of course, I will be recapping each game. I will try to break it down as best as I can. Obviously, I will talk about every game this weekend. And then I would do a little sneak preview of the championship games this Sunday. And man, we got some real good matchups, guys. I really can't wait. And I'm going to briefly talk about some news that occurred over the weekend. The Oakland Raiders are about to file for relocation to Las Vegas. And apparently Jon Gruden has turned down several teams from coaching. So I will get my thoughts on that. But first, let's begin with probably the best playoff game we had this year. And that is the Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys. The Green Bay Packers defeated the Dallas Cowboys 34-31. And the Packers started this game off so fast. It was 21-3 midway in the second quarter. I believe it's like 7 or 6 minutes left in the second quarter, and the Dak Prescott and the Cowboys finally got on the board to make it 10-3. Well, at first, there was some talk, there's rookies at the quarterback and the running back position, and will the spotlight get too big for them? And I really did think that they were going to come out. I think they were going to struggle a little bit. But, man, I did not think that they were going to come out that flat to begin the game. But it wasn't just their fault. Or I wouldn't say their fault, but it wasn't just Dan that started out slow. It was the whole team. The whole team just didn't know how to defend that offense. And remember, the Packers are probably the hottest team in the league right now. And, when the Cowboys made a one-score game at halftime, I was like, okay, they finally are back within the game. But I feel like for them, I was kind of worried that they didn't score a touchdown to make it 17-21 before halftime because, the Packers were getting the ball back. And I'm not saying that's not the reason why they lost, but I feel like they would have had a little more. They would have put a little more pressure on the Packers there because, got all the momentum on the Cowboys side. Their defense, their fans are back into the game. And I feel like they would put a little more pressure. So it could have been a potential game-changing drive, but they only mustered up a field goal on the final drive to end the half. And at the second half, man, we had a great game. The third quarter wasn't a whole lot. It was all Packers. The Packers did go up 28-13. And I think most people thought the Cowboys were done. Me, I wasn't. I just felt the Cowboys were too good of a team to get blown out because, they were 13-3 for a reason. They were 13-3 for a reason. You can say different arguments like, they were really good at holding the ball, having really good at time of possession, keeping their defense off the field, being really good and staying on the field. So you can equivalent to that. But, the Cowboys were 7-1 at home. They're 13-3. And there was no reason why I don't think this team would have got blown out, and they didn't. The Cowboys had an 18 fourth quarter. Cowboys had an 18 fourth quarter. And, Aaron Rodgers had a great game. He threw for 356. 2 touchdowns. He did throw a pick, which was his first pick, and I think in 6 or 7 games he's been on this hot streak. But I want to talk about Dak Prescott. We know a lot about Aaron Rodgers already. We've seen it already. But Dak Prescott, this was his first playoff game ever. And even though his team was down more than 14 points, I think it was like a 15-point deficit that they were trailing. Dak Prescott never backed down. To me, in that game, he proved that he was for real. I really do think he was for real. He drove his team twice to tie the game. Obviously, the first drive, the first touchdown, the first Cowboys touchdown in the fourth quarter, it made it 20-28. And the fact that, he drove the team down again to tie it up and get that 2-point conversion, which he ran it in himself, really spoke to me a lot. We saw him being resilient in this game, and I think that's something we didn't really see from Prescott a whole lot this year. We didn't see the Cowboys play from behind a lot. And, being down 15 to, I think that when the Packers are up 21-3, I think that was the largest deficit the Cowboys had this entire season. They've never been down that much. We didn't see the Cowboys play from behind at all this year, and we finally did. And then Prescott just didn't back down. To me, as a rookie, I don't think he's a rookie anymore. He is not a rookie anymore. And I know when the Packers were up 21-3 or 28-13, maybe some people were saying maybe if Tony Romo was in the game, maybe this wouldn't happen. And I'm going to say this, no, you know what? You got to stick by your quarterback, and you are playing with a rookie. Don't forget about that. Dak Prescott is a rookie, and if you put Tony Romo in that game, I don't even think the Cowboys would have even came back. Because remember, Tony Romo hasn't been good in the playoffs either. He hasn't been good in the playoffs historically. He's made probably the bonehead plays for the Cowboys in every playoff game he's been in. So I'm real glad they stuck with Prescott. He was very resilient in the game, drove his team down, got that 2-point conversion, and I think the future is bright for the Cowboys here. I really do. I think they will be back. I think they will be even better. I think Ezekiel Elliott, I think he's going to come back strong. Dak Prescott, he might be even better next year than that, and I think that's really scary. And don't forget, they also have Dez Bryant, who had a really great game yesterday. Dez Bryant had 132 yards and 2 touchdowns. Terrence Williams also was highly involved in the game with 68 touchdowns. And Jason Witten, yes, got his first postseason touchdown. And I believe that was Dez Bryant's first postseason touchdown as well. So, and that was really surprising to hear because, Dez Bryant has been in the playoffs before. So I was really surprised that it was their first postseason touchdown ever. And I do think the Cowboys are going to be back next year. I do think they're going to be even better. They may not even be 13-3 again, but I do think that they do this young core players, Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, this young core players, they have experience playing in the spotlight. They have experience in the playoffs. And I do think that they will use this to come back strong even next year. And I think their division is going to get even better too. And they're playing in probably the most competitive division in my opinion, because in the NFC East, Eli Manning and the Giants were in the playoffs this year. They can do it next year, but they're always inconsistent year in, year out. Kirk Cousins, I think, is going to come back strong. Washington was literally one game away from being in the playoffs. And, you got Carson Wentz there in Philadelphia, and I do think they're going to be better if they happen to build around Carson Wentz and probably get him some receivers there that don't drop passes. But I do think that Dallas Cowboys will be back even stronger next year, and I do think, I think if they, there's been some talk, if they trade Romo or not. Even if they do trade Romo, I do think they will get really good value for him. And I do think they can probably get Dak Prescott maybe one receiver. Because they do have Dez Bryant, who could potentially be a game changer. But outside of that, they really don't have anybody. They got Terrence Williams. They got Bryce Butler. They got Cole Beasley, who's a really good slot guy. So I do if they add maybe some solid pieces around. Like I'm not saying that they have to make a splash. No, they really got a solid group, and I do think if they get some defensive players, I do think this team can be even better because this defense really got shredded yesterday. But then again, they are playing Aaron Rodgers, so we can't really judge the defense like that. But this defense has been really good all year. They just happen to play against a very hot quarterback. But as for the Packers, you got to respect the greatness of Aaron Rodgers, man. That throw that he made to Jared Cook to set up that game-winning field goal. Remember, the game was tied 31-31 after the Cowboys tied it up with a field goal. And there was 30 seconds left. I was one of those people that thought, okay, maybe this game's going overtime, and there's no way that Aaron Rodgers is going to do something magical again with 30 seconds left, the way that the defense has been playing. Well, I was wrong. He threw to Ty Montgomery on the screen pass, had a really good game, and then the next play, Aaron Rodgers goes out to his left and throws a dart to Jared Cook to set up the game-winning field goal. And that may not be Aaron Rodgers' best throw, which was a heck of a throw, by the way, but that was probably the best catch Jared Cook has ever made in his career. Best catch he's ever made in his career. And I got to say, that was probably play of the year. And if that catch doesn't get made, if that pass is not completed, we might be talking about a different game. But I just got to say, that was a phenomenal play by Jared Cook, who had a great game, 104 yards and a touchdown. And Ty Montgomery also had a great game, too, at the running back position. Even though he did have 47 yards and 11 carries, he still had 2 touchdowns. So they found ways to score in the running game. But, man, Aaron Rodgers, you can't forget about his greatness. I think he might be making a case. He might be making a case for the greatest of all time. And I know that's saying a lot, but he's making a very strong case as being the GOAT. And don't forget, the GOAT is in New England, which I will talk about later. But potentially we can see a matchup of the greatest of all time and Tom Brady versus probably one of the most clutch players of all time and Aaron Rodgers. And I don't know. There's just something about Aaron Rodgers that's just amazing. The things that he has done in the playoffs is just amazing. But, man, all I got to say is what a game we saw in Dallas yesterday. With all the blowout games that we've seen in the playoffs. I'm really glad we got an instant classic in this. But like I said, I think we're going to see Prescott come back even strong. Zeke Elliott, the Cowboys will be back. I think if they add some pieces on defense, they'll be fine. And Green Bay is moving on to the NFC Championship, and the matchup and that is something I can't see. I can't wait to see. But, yeah, this is a really good game. That's all I can say. But I'm going to take a break, and I'm going to get into another game this past weekend. That is the Steelers and Chiefs. And I will talk about that game when we come back to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
All right, back to the divisional round recap of the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. I'm going to talk about the Steelers and Chiefs game last night, and it wasn't as exciting as the Cowboys and Packers game, but I still thought it was a good game. It's a very good defensive game. Now, this is a game I expected to see out of these two teams. The Steelers defeated the Chiefs 18-16 at Arrowhead Stadium, and the Chiefs did have a chance to tie it up with a 2-point conversion. It looks like they did get it, but it was called back due to a holding penalty on left tackle Eric Fisher. So, Travis Kelce did say, I blame this game on the ref. Maybe that was a brutal call on the Chiefs, but, it was a brutal call, but, you got to play the game, man. You got to play the game. But back to this game in general, Big Ben didn't really do a whole lot. Roethlisberger, he was 224 passing and interception, so he didn't do a whole lot. But Le'Veon Bell, man, what a postseason this guy's having. He broke his record of the most rushing yards in a playoff game in Steelers history with 170 on 30 carries. And, Le'Veon Bell, he has run for the most rushing yards in his first two playoff games ever. He set an NFL record. That's an NFL record for the most rushing yards in a player's two first postseason games. Because remember, Le'Veon Bell ran through Miami Dolphins for 167 on 29 carries. And he is one of four players to ever have back-to-back 150-yard performances. Ever. In the playoffs. He joins Franco Harris, a former Steeler, in 1975. Marcus Allen in 1984. And Terrell Davis in 1999. So, Bell outgained the entire Chiefs offense through three quarters. So, it was that kind of game. It was that kind of day for the Chiefs. And, I want to say that this Chiefs defense played really good. Despite giving up 170 yards to Le'Veon Bell, which I think he can do that to any team, this defense played really well to keep them in the game. They kept the Steelers out of the end zone. Because remember, Chris Boswell had 6 field goals, and that's also an NFL record. So they kept the Steelers out of the end zone, and I do think that was a good performance by the Chiefs. But, maybe it's the reason that they haven't been so successful in the playoffs. Maybe it's because of the quarterback. Maybe it's because of Andy Reid. You get into a variety of things. But, Alex Smith, the quarterback for the Chiefs, has been that guy that's just been good enough to get there. He's been good enough to get there. It's even back in his days with the 49ers. He's always been that guy that's good enough to get him to the playoffs, not the guy to the Super Bowl. And I really was rooting for Alex Smith to win a playoff game and go to the AFC Championship and possibly compete for a Super Bowl, but I don't know if it's ever going to happen. I don't know if Alex Smith is good enough to win a Super Bowl. I just don't think it is. He's been in the league for for more than 10 years? Or at least coming on 10 years? I don't know if it's going to happen. He's been that guy that's really took a team to the playoffs, had a bye week, takes them to the 1 or 2 seed, and then they just don't advance to the Super Bowl. Because remember when Alex Smith was with the 49ers when Jim Harbaugh first year, I believe they finished 13-3, made it all the way to the NFC Championship, and Alex Smith had a great game in the division round that year in 2011 against the Saints. We all remember that. But, in the NFC Championship against the Giants, I believe that they were playing, Alex Smith probably had one of his worst games ever in his career. I don't think he had one big pass that was for 70 yards, and then that was it. He couldn't drive the team down the field. And ever since that one playoff win, he's only won one other playoff game with the Chiefs. And that was last year against Houston when they blew him out 30-0. So Alex Smith hasn't had a whole lot of success in the playoffs. I think he's like 2-4 now. But I think he's a really solid quarterback with a good team around him. And, he has proven he can be a winning quarterback and a playoff quarterback. But I don't know if he's ever going to be a Super Bowl quarterback. But as far as this game goes, the Steelers are going to the AFC Championship, and the team that they're playing is the New England Patriots, who have advanced to their 6th straight AFC Championship, and that is a record. The New England Patriots did defeat the Houston Texans 34-16, but we all kind of knew that was going to happen anyway. I don't know if people actually tuned into this game. I know I didn't because it was going the way I expected to. But you know what? This game was close at first. It was 17-13 at the halftime. And this Houston defense, I'm not going to lie, this Houston defense can play. This Houston defense can flat out play. The pass rush was there. And I just think if they can get some better play at the quarterback position, this team is a Super Bowl contender. They paid Brock Osweiler, $72 million. But I felt like if Houston tries to trade for Tony Romo, they will be a Super Bowl contender next year. I think quarterback is the only problem with this team. They got weapons with DeAndre Hopkins. Fedor has been really productive as a tight end. And I know Will Fuller, rookie, he dropped a he dropped a pass that should have been a touchdown that could have probably changed the landscape of the game in the third quarter. But he's someone that has speed that can stretch the field. And if he happens to improve on making those catches, he can be a valuable weapon. But I do think the quarterback is the only problem for the Houston Texans. But as for the Patriots, there's really nothing else I can say. The only thing I can really say is that Tom Brady threw 2 picks after throwing 2 picks the whole entire season. And the Patriots and the Steelers, it's a really good matchup I'm looking forward to watch. And I really, really can't wait to see. And the one game I didn't get a chance to talk about yet is the other NFC matchup. That is the Seattle Seahawks and the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons won 36-20. And I thought this would be another close game. But it looks like it wasn't. it ended up not being a close game at all. This Falcons offense is just flat out explosive. Flat out amazing. It was so amazing to watch Matt Ryan lead this offense. And with the Falcons winning this game, they are going to the AFC Championship against the Green Bay Packers, which is a matchup I cannot wait to see. I think this game has the makings of a shootout. I honestly am hoping for a 52-49 game. I'm hoping for that kind of shootout. But man, this Falcons defense though, I want to talk. This defense was very underrated this entire year. The pass rush, I think they had the most underrated pass rush in the game this year. Vic Beasley, who led the league in sacks, and this entire front seven was all over Russell Wilson all game. Every play for Russell Wilson was like an adventure. He was struggling. It was like an adventure. And then the Seattle Seahawks tried to run the ball, and they just didn't have success the whole day. Russell Wilson was the leading rusher at 49 yards. And as for the Falcons, I can't wait to see this offense go against the Green Bay Packers offense. I think it has the makings of a classic. I think the AFC Championship between the Steelers and the Patriots has the makings of a classic. And I think we're in for a really good weekend of football. And honestly, all these 4 teams, the Steelers, the Patriots, the Packers, and the Falcons, these are the 4 teams, but probably the 4 best quarterbacks in this entire year. And yeah, you can make a case that Big Ben is probably not as huge part of this team as Le'Veon Bell is, but come on, Big Ben is he's a very good playoff quarterback. He's been there before. He's made clutch plays. He's been a really good player in the playoffs that I've seen. So these are 4 best quarterbacks this entire year. I think, Aaron Rodgers going against Matt Ryan, I think practically not just a trip to the Super Bowl, but I think they're playing for a trip to the MVP award. I'm not lying. I think it might be for the MVP award too. And as for the Steelers and Patriots, I think this has the makings of a potential shootout as well. Because, you got Tom Brady, and then you got Ben Roethlisberger and the Killer Bees going for a chance to play at the Super Bowl. And, I can't wait for the championship weekend. I think we're in for some good football, guys. I really do. But I'm going to take my last break, and I'm going to get to some news about the Oakland Raiders and Jon Gruden. So I will talk about these stories that have broke out over the weekend and my thoughts on those when we get back to the Going to Meet Concepts Football Podcast.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Well, we could have a 3rd NFL team relocate to another city within a year. The Oakland Raiders are close to filing for relocation to Las Vegas, and are expected to do so well before the February 15th deadline. And this was reported by Adam Schefter, and it was also reported by Ian Rappaport and NFL Network. The Raiders could become the 3rd NFL franchise to move to a different city. And because remember, the Chargers moved to LA, which was... the LA people they're not very happy about it, honestly. If you remember that this past weekend, during a Lakers and Clippers game at the Staples Center, the Chargers logo was shown and the crowd booed. They booed the Chargers logo. So I don't even think LA wants that team there. So that's another disaster, dumpster fire waiting to happen, but we'll see how that plays out. And then they got the Rams, who are just flat out awful, but they might be good. They could be good if they can build around Jared Goff. And I do like to hire Sean McVay. I do. But with the Raiders moving to Las Vegas, I think if the NFL were to go to Las Vegas, I think the Raiders are the team that fits the city the most. But I think that I feel bad for the fans here in California that have stuck with the Raiders through all that, through that 13-year tenure when they were just flat out awful. Now when they're finally good, they're moving. And this is all because of stadium reasons. Stadium reasons. Well, Mark Davis went before the NFL Stadium and Finance Committees in New York last week during a 3.5-hour meeting, which updated the league on his plans to relocate to Las Vegas. So owners, they have to vote on it. And I don't think that it's going to get voted down. Owners are actually liking the idea of the move, that it no longer seems to be a question if the Raiders are moving anymore. It's not if they're moving, it's when they're moving. So I think, honestly, by this point, I think the Raiders are going to Las Vegas, and it's crazy. We're going to see a game of the LA Chargers versus the Las Vegas Raiders. I never thought I would ever see that in my lifetime. But man, we're going to have 3 franchises moving within the past year. Man, oh man, I never thought I would ever see that. I never thought I would ever see the Rams back in LA. I definitely would have never thought that the Chargers would be in LA. And I never thought Las Vegas would ever get an NFL team. I don't even know if Las Vegas will ever get a professional team. Now they have one in the NHL with the Las Vegas Golden Knights. And now they're going to get the Oakland Raiders. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if the NBA went there too. But moving on, a former Raiders coach, actually, Jon Gruden, has been pursued by 3 other teams, according to Adam Schefter. And Gruden, of course, rejected them all. Those 3 teams were the Indianapolis Colts, the Los Angeles Rams, and the San Francisco 49ers. I'm not surprised that all 3 of these teams did. But the one that stuck out to me was the Indianapolis Colts. Because, the 49ers are awful, so I can see him turning that down. The Rams are awful, but I'm kind of surprised he's turned down because of Jared Goff and the potential he can develop there. And Jon Gruden loves young quarterbacks. But the Indianapolis Colts with Andrew Luck, if Jon Gruden's ever going to turn down coaching Andrew Luck, I don't even know what's going to make him go back to coaching. Like what, coaching Aaron Rodgers make him go back to coaching? Like what, coaching Tom Brady make him go back to the sideline? Like, what's it going to take for Jon Gruden? And if he hasn't took a offer from an NFL team by now, I don't think he's ever going to come back. Remember, he's like 9 years removed? He's 9 years removed since his last time he's been a coach. And he's also one of ESPN's highest paid employees, making $6.5 million per year. So maybe that's the reason why he's not going to take a coaching gig, but he could possibly get paid more money. He can make more money in the NFL. He could probably make up to like 9 to 10 million, double the money that he's making now. But the thing is, I think the reason why he would not go back, his job won't be as secured as the one now, and I think that's the reason why he won't ever move. He will never move. These teams continue to pursue Gruden, and his attitude is probably not going to change. So I think his coaching career is over. I think the fact that Jon Gruden is so secured with ESPN, I think that's the reason why he is not going to coach again. And, with coaching Andrew Luck in the Indianapolis Colts, that's a really good position. And it can probably boost that franchise up. But, the Indianapolis Colts, that's not the only thing they try to do. Well, at least Jim Irsay, the owner of the team, try to do. Jim Irsay is trying to land Peyton Manning as the head of football operations as well. And I do think Manning can be a potential front office guy, kind of like how John Elway is in Denver. And some people thought maybe he'll be a good fit with Tennessee Titans because he does have ties to that region, being a former quarterback of Tennessee. I don't know if he will, and I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't, because that front office has been really dysfunctional lately. Because there's a dysfunctional relationship between Chuck Pagano and Ryan Grigson. Ryan Grigson, I think, has been really overvalued in that franchise because he hasn't done a good job building around Andrew Luck. And I do think if if the Colts were to get Jon Gruden, and if it happened to work with Ryan Grissom, then we don't know. I can't speculate on that. But we do know that the relationship between Chuck Pagano and Ryan Grissom, it hasn't been really dysfunctional lately. Chuck Pagano has been on the hot seat for like 2 years now. I do think if Chuck Pagano if the Colts are not in the playoffs in 2017, I think Chuck Pagano is going to be let go. But, Peyton Manning will have to deal with the dysfunctional relationship with Chuck Pagano and Ryan Grissom. And he'll definitely have the power to hire and fire others within the organization, kind of like how John Elway does. But I don't know if he'll take that job with that. I don't know if he wants to deal with Jim Irsay or not. I don't know. I think he kind of wants to enjoy retirement, but then again, I don't know what he wants to do. I don't know Peyton Manning. But it's interesting to see. I can definitely see Peyton Manning in a front office position in the future. It may not happen next year, but I could definitely see it happen within a few years. But that concludes our show. Yeah, I had a really great time talking about the divisional round with you guys. Definitely talking about the Oakland Raiders potentially relocating, but we all think it's going to happen. I think it is going to happen, just a matter of when. And Jon Gruden and, of course, Peyton Manning with the Colts franchise. But I'll be back tomorrow. I will discuss any news that has occurred over the past 24 hours. And I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in. As always, I'm Jeremiah. I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in to Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. Have a good day and have a pleasant tomorrow.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.